Hey friends, and welcome back to Cut the BS, Build the Dream. I'm your host, Brittney Kosev, broker, investor, single mom, and a big believer that you don't need permission to live an extraordinary life. Today's episode is a mindset reset, and it really builds on our episode from last week on hard work, because we're talking about something that completely shifted how I lead my life, my business, and of course, my mindset. Here it is. You're either a thermometer or you're a thermostat. Let me break that down. A thermometer reacts. It reflects the energy around it. If the room is cold, it's cold. If the room heats up, it follows. But a thermostat sets the temperature. It decides where things are going, and the whole system adjusts around it. And people are the same way. I can be a thermometer sometimes, especially with my kids. My daughter, Nicole, who is 12, hates mornings. She will wait until her alarm clock is like blaring for a few minutes before she wakes up. In fact, for Christmas last year, I had to buy one that shakes her bed because she was so bad at waking up. Most mornings, I just roll with it. I can handle the grouchy mood, but some mornings, especially if I have a big day, I'm reactive. I'm frustrated when she stomps in, glaring at everyone as if they have personally wronged her. We all have that thermometer reaction in us sometimes, whatever it is that triggers you. But most people go through their whole life like thermometers. They blame everyone and everything for the circumstances they're in. They're exhausted, reactive, waiting for the mood to shift, for the market to change, for someone else to take the lead. But the ones building something great, they're thermostats. They walk into a room and they raise the bar. They set the temperature and they can turn any climate into one that they can work in. Let me say this. I'm not talking about one-offs, annoyed with your kids, your husband, your wife, or angry at traffic. I am talking about how you live daily. Are you a thermometer or a thermostat? Now, let's get into the psychology behind this. You've probably heard of this equation, and if you haven't, I'm with you. I didn't hear about it before I started researching, and it's B equals F, and in the parentheses, P comma E, which stands for this. Behavior, that's the B, is a function of the person and their environment. It's this model from a psychologist, I think his name was Kurt Lewin, and he is the father of social psychology. And at first glance, that sounds like we're all just thermometers, right? Products of our environment. But here's the truth. Most people default to that. The difference is that thermostats, the people that are listening to this podcast, change the environment. They build habits, they structure routines, they set the tone, and then the system just follows. Psychologists call this environmental design. And one of my favorite authors, James Clear, he wrote the book called Atomic Habits. He says this: you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Whoa, let that sink in for a minute. Systems are your thermostat settings. If you want consistency in your business, build a system. If you want consistency in your relationship, build a system. If you want peace, set boundaries. If you want to win, whatever it is, stop reacting and you have to start deciding. Because here's the real truth. Transformation happens when you don't give up. Not giving up is a thermostat mentality, and it really hinges all the way on consistency. Those are like the weekly actions that you take. And consistency isn't going to guarantee success, but without it, success is impossible. Hear that again. Consistency isn't going to guarantee your success, but without it, success is impossible. Whatever the temperature is around you, consistency in your daily action will help you get to success. I live in Texas, and just last week, we ranged in temperature from 32, seriously, all the way to 90. There was hail, rain, sun, all in a 7-day span. Those are conditions I can't change. People always look for the right conditions, the perfect weather in their life to do something or make some sort of change. Oh, well, I had a rough Monday and a Tuesday, and so now it's Wednesday, so I'm just going to mess around the rest of the week. I already screwed it up. No, you don't need perfect conditions to start. You just need movement. any day of the week, right? That's it. That's the entire playbook. Motivation doesn't just show up first, movement does. You have to act first. You feel aligned later. Here's a good example of this. Let's talk about Nelson Mandela. Did you know that he spent 27 years in prison? Holy crap. That's not an empowering environment. That's not a place for big dreams. But Mandela, he stayed a thermostat throughout his entire time in prison. He set his mental temperature. He set it to justice, to discipline, to preparation, and he didn't let prison break his purpose. Wow, that's pretty powerful, right? He ended up leading a nation because he led himself first. And that's what thermostats do. They hold the line and they let the world adjust. The settings adjust, the environment adjust. Let's talk about Oprah. She was born into poverty. She was a survivor of abuse. She was told by the world that she didn't belong. And yet she didn't reflect her environment. She could have been all of those things. She could have chose differently, but instead she redefined it. She didn't wait for someone to offer her a stage. She decided to just build her own. And I love this that she said, you become what you believe, and you are where you are today in your life based on everything you have believed. Your belief system, that's your internal thermostat. If you don't choose the temperature, life will set it to survival mode. Let me be real with you. The bar truly is not that high. Most people stop when it gets boring, when it gets hard. They check out and they quit, right? When the results don't come fast enough. You are not most people. Those people, they're going to scroll through social media just jealous of all the thermostats that they see on their IG. The people who stayed in the fire long enough to change the climate, that's the thermostats. You are a thermostat. You see the mediocrity around you and you know honestly, it excites you because you know that most people are just thermometers. They will give up, but not you. You're not here to mirror your surroundings. You're here to lead them. So, thinking about this in business, when I was a school librarian and I was looking for a way to leave education and supplement my income, right? I didn't want to live off $60,000 a year, especially not as a single mom. I decided to get my real estate license. And I have seen some wild swings over the last several years in real estate. Right now in real estate, rates are up. Buyers are freaking out. They're very cautious, and sellers are pretty unrealistic. They're seeing these prices from years ago and they're holding fast to them. But agents who are thermometers, they slow down. They disappear. They use the market as an excuse as to why they aren't successful. That's why I think it's 80 something percent of realtors do not renew after 2 years. But agents who are thermostats, they script better conversations. They host client events. They send the emails. They make the cold calls. They shoot the videos. They follow up again and again and again. They're not waiting for momentum. They're not waiting for the circumstances to change around them. They decide to create the change. And that's what makes the people who listen to these podcasts different. Let me take this down to a morbid but very truth level. Life is going to end. It's inevitable. And just let that give you the courage to change now. You do not want to wait for life to end. You aren't given your dreams to just sit and babysit them. You're here to build them. So write them down, journal about them, tell them to people who believe in dreams. And that may not be your husband, your wife, your mom, because they may not be able to handle your dreams. But find someone who will listen and believe in you. For a while, that just might be you alone. But then take those dreams and go make them real. You're not behind. I promise you that. I didn't own my first property until I was in my 30s. I didn't start my company until 2 years ago. Many of the most successful people didn't get going in a big way until later in life. Lucille Ball, love that show, became a megastar in I Love Lucy at 40 after decades of acting with very little success. Vera Wang entered the fashion industry and designed her first wedding dress at 40 as well. And at 46, Samuel L. Jackson became a household name after his role in Pulp Fiction. Guys, you are in the training ground right now, whatever age you are. And the thermostat version of you, well, they're ready to set the tone for the rest of your life. That person is already waiting. So, here's your cut the BS moment. You can react just like a thermometer, or you can lead. You can set the temperature. You can reflect the room, or you can decide that you're going to change it. And now, the same question I ask all the time: how do you cut the BS to get closer to your dream? Be a thermostat. If you liked this, share it with someone who needs a reset. They need a hard truth, who may need to get their butt in gear, right? All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'm Brittney Kosev, and I will see you next week on Cut the BS, Build the Dream.